Welcome to this series of interviews to get to know more about the ICIS members. My name is Ixchel Peyrot, and as part of the efforts of this community, we would like to know more about the trajectories of most of the members. I am really delighted to have here Dr. Diane Poulin-Dubois. Thank you for being here, Doctor.
You're welcome. It's my pleasure.
So we would like to learn more about you, about the work you are doing right now, the place you are doing your work, the name of your laboratory.
Well, yes, as you said, I'm Diane Poulin-Dubois. I'm the director of the Cognitive and Language Development Laboratory at Concordia University. Concordia University is one of many Concordia University, but this one is in Canada, in Montreal. And you see in the background the beautiful campus in the summer, not in the winter. And I've been a full professor at Concordia University for quite a few years. I started my careers now 40 years ago. It's
Wow.
difficult to figure this, but time has been going so fast. So yes, what I study, well, these days, I'm currently very much interested in social cognition and theory of mind and bilingual cognition. So those are my three main research areas. I am funded by Social Sciences and Humanities Research Council for the social cognition and from the Natural Sciences and Engineering Research Council of Canada for bilingual cognition. So these are my main line of research. And I don't know if you want to know right now what is exciting us or a history of how we got there.
Well, I would like to ask, what would you consider are the most exciting discoveries you have found in all your research experience? Yeah.
In my career, wow. Listen, it's very, see, what excites us usually is what we do right now. But so let's think for a moment. Before this interview, I was thinking, what were the main findings? Well, first of all, I started being interested in physical categorization. So how babies discriminate different objects at different level of abstraction, basic, subordinate, subordinate. So that was my first love. And I discovered that babies are very good, very smart at distinguish animate from inanimate objects. So, and I wrote quite a few papers on this. My most cited paper is one that does a good review inside Bulletin on that topic. So this was one thing that we discovered. For example, when they see an object that is, let's say, a silhouette, just a shadow that is accelerating, and then we give them a choice. Is it a car or is it a chair? That's a better example. Or is it an animal? If it's accelerate, change direction, they can anticipate even before the first year of life that this is an animate being that has this kind of ability to move on its own. So this was my first love, even as a postdoctoral fellow at McGill. That's what interested me. So I've continued doing this, but gradually and early on, I think the gender stereotypes. I have not pursued this line of research, but this is one area where I see this still cited and it's in textbook. And then even recently, the BBC did a documentary on this topic and asked me, this was a long time ago. And we discovered that babies already know what kind of voice goes with each gender, a female voice or a male voice. What kind of object baby prefer, that people prefer, like a little girl like doll and boy like car. Even very second year of life, they would actually be able to tell. So this was an area of research I did not pursue, but it was about showing how babies are good at categorizing voice and human in categories of gender. So this was another type of categories that was more social. And early on, I was interested in word learning. And I realized I've kept that interest through my whole career, but it has evolved, of course. So I was interested in verb learning and verb learning in different linguistic groups, like in Japan, with babies who hear verbs, more nouns. Does it affect the composition of their vocabulary? And of course, bilingualism. Montreal being a place where almost everyone is bilingual, French, English. And of course, with demographic changing, there is a lot of language pairing. We have a very, very diversified population. So I was always interested in, are there cognitive benefit of bilingualism? And those of you who are listening will know that this is a hot debate. This is far from being clear. And of course, there is meta-analysis right now that show that in adulthood, for example, the picture is rather complex. There's a lot of null results. There's a very small effect. But my take at this has been that one of the leaders in this field is Hélène Bialystok, a fellow Canadian researcher. When she came to my department to give a talk years ago, I raised my hand. This was 20 years ago. I said, how early do you think this is happening? Because the youngest children were 3, 4. And then we launched a research project together. And we got funding, and we found that even toddlers show an effect. But again, this is still controversial. Even 6-month-old later on was discovered, bilingual 6-month-olds seem to be having better attentional control. So we're pursuing this line of research these days. I have new funding for 5 more years. I'm not ready to retire because I got a grant. So this is about training. I want to do a training study. So taking a whole group of monolingual, teaching them a doublet mind or translation equivalent, dog and chien, Peyrot. And then the other monolingual are learning words, the control group, but the word in their mother tongue. So after a few months of training online, we'll see if they are improving on executive function, which is the area of cognition that they're supposed to, and which aspect of executive function. Yeah. So this is ongoing. We're about to finish data collection this summer. And so this is very exciting. And finally, but last but not least, is my interest in social cognition, particularly epistemic trust. So I think my contribution has been to show that even babies keep track of people's ability to be reliable or competent. So we start with emotional display. So someone looks sad, but they should be happy. So even 14-month-old detect that this is not right. And then they don't trust the facial expression of that person as much as someone who was sad, but had a good reason to be sad. And after that, we went into word learning. So by 18 months, if someone mislabeled, like call a shoe a bottle, multiple times and another is competent, they want to learn a new word from the competent speaker. So that's been my contribution in infancy. And recently I moved into testing in preschooler, whether they can trust even a robot. So my latest excitement is to have collaboration with people. I just went to Italy for 2 weeks, and we have a collaboration in Milan with a fantastic group led by my colleague Antonella Marchetti, where we are looking at whether children would trust a competent robot over an incompetent person. Over time, does it change between 3 and 5? In fact, we have published showing that 3-year-olds are really kind of uncertain because they're really into social affiliation. Yeah. And then they know that competence matters, but by 5, they all go for the robot. So epistemic cues, competence win over familiarity and social affiliation. Okay, so those are my line of research that I think I've kept working on, but it changed over time in the topic as a function of our findings and other lab findings.
Well, that's amazing. And also the social cognition. Have you test on maybe non-typical development children or infants?
Yes, in fact, we did at some point had a line of research with children with autism. So we were interested to know whether they have, they behave differently. We should never talk about deficit in the sense that they think differently sometimes. Yeah. And we look at, it's a famous research by colleagues who show that children with autism are very good at physical reasoning, but when it comes to theory of mind, they behave differently. So we did that with naive biology, and they were fine, actually. They were exactly like the neurotypical children. And so I have done a little bit work with children with autism. It's not my expertise, but we were able to answer a question about whether they are more interested in animate being than inanimate being. And in fact, we replicate and extend some of this research showing that they're more interested in inanimate object and become expert at some type of inanimate object, like musical instrument and so on.
Yeah. Wow, that's really, really amazing. And well, the next question would be, what motivated you to start doing infant research? I mean, what is your passion to do infant research?
Well, well, I started being interested in infant research as an undergraduate student. I was lucky enough to get a summer job as a surrogate mother with chimpanzees. So in Montreal, there was back then there was many project on chimpanzees, language learning,
Yeah.
cognitive development. So this group at University of Montreal, where I was studying, had some baby chimps, and they were testing their sensory motor development, the Piagetian concept. And I was hired simply to take care of them. So I would have a night shift, stay in the in the lab and then take care of them, carry them, and we had bruise over our arms all summer because they really hold tight.
Oh,
Well, you're their mother, so I mean,
yeah.
so we were. So this me, I sat and also took a class by Professor Thérèse Goin-Lécary, who actually just passed away a month ago. She was my mentor. I sat and listened to her lecture, and I became completely obsessed and hooked on
Yeah.
Piaget theory. So she was a pioneer in doing research on sensory motor development in Canada. And then, as I said, she passed away a month ago. She was 100 years old. And Piaget was a big supporter of her. He actually wrote a note in her book about her thesis. So you can imagine, Piaget called Université de Montréal my little Geneva. He would come regularly and encourage her. And then she was passionate and she passed on and she detects some fire in me. I mean, she
Yeah.
just pushed me to do more and more. So I became interested in infancy because, well, this is challenging. There's always debate, and baby cannot talk to us. They cannot explain how they're reasoning. So that means you have to design clever experiment. So in itself, it's extremely challenging.
Yeah.
And also, of course, back, and we cannot phrase it that way, but you have a better grasp of nature nurture. I mean, how much baby bring. Of course, Piaget underestimated how much baby bring to the reasoning. They have certainly lots of ability, but he didn't have the technique to actually study babies the right way. He had his watch and a clock, and he was a great observer. So in
Yeah.
other words, this is what make me passionate about infant. And it's wonderful to work with babies. I mean, they're all adorable, and again, the parents are also so excited to know more about how baby develop. And we can actually then, that I became myself a constructivist early on, as I explained, a Piagetian constructivist, neo-Piagetian, but it's really by understanding a construct, a concept, is the best ways to see how it gradually develops, how it unfolds. So this is why infancy research is so interesting and so challenging.
Yeah, I've been hearing a lot like the love for babies, the love for knowing more in all the past interviews that I have. And it's pretty similar the answers, and it's really amazing because as a community, well, we share the passion for doing infant research, right?
Yes, in fact, I before this interview, I was thinking, when did I go to the first ICIS conference? And it was 1988 in Washington, D.C. And
Wow.
I rarely miss an ICIS meeting since. I will miss the one this year because I have too many conferences in different places in Europe, so I have to stop traveling. But so ICIS in 88, and then in 1990, 2 years later, I was on the organizing committee in Montreal. We had ICIS in Montreal. I was a young prof. I was just foolish enough to just go and help, and then rewarded with wonderful event. Like we gave an award to Mary Ainsworth and my mentor. I have a picture in my office where they're together beaming. They got this distinguished award for their work. So this was a wonderful experience, 1990. And since then, I have rarely missed an ICIS meeting. Yes.
Well, that is why we would like to, to continue all this series of interviews, because I think it's really valuable that We know the members and all the history of this conference and this community. And well, the next question is, do you have any advice for the students that are interested in this field?
Well, 2 years ago, the ICIS was in Ottawa, in Canada, and I attended, of course, but I was an invited speaker. And I was asked to tell the audience the 10 mistakes I made in my career.
Okay.
This was an interesting invitation. And the reason why the organizing committee thought about this topic was that someone in Europe, Dr. Ellman, had given a similar talk at a conference just to inform the audience of young scholar and PhD student about the field, about things are never happening without any failure, right? So
Yeah.
10 mistakes. I think I mentioned 7 mistakes, and I ended up with the happy event, yeah, the happy ending. So I would tell people that it's such a rewarding career that you have, again, and many colleagues will tell you the same thing. It's never all success. There's data that you put in a drawer and you thought you never publish. But I remember many cases where I would say, aha, we need to do one more experiment. And then we publish that even years later. So be passionate, stay passionate, and surround yourself by colleagues, by collaborators. It's one of the mistakes I made, I said, was not joining teams early enough, because it's extremely rewarding to be with others, learn from others, be humble, be humble. I mean, don't go too fast. Sometime in infancy, particularly, you have to keep doing follow-up study verification before you put up a very big theory. So I think be humble, be patient, and as I said, learn from your mistakes, and go and get the best training you can. Be mobile, be ready. I mean, for me, I stay in Canada. I did a bit of postdoctoral fellowship at Harvard, but too short. But I've been catching up. Now, when I go on sabbatical, I just travel around the world and meet colleagues. And I have just started collaboration, as I said, in Milan. So it's really rewarding to get a fresh look at the same issue. And also, don't hesitate to be involved in replication, strict replication and conceptual replication. There's a cost to it, of course, because you might just not replicate someone and they're not too pleased with this. I mean, Notek, the famous researcher who started this, has told us that, there's a cost, but I think for the field, it's very important to replicate. I myself, on theory of mind and false belief in infancy, have done many conceptual replication, which I hope are informing the field about the depth of infants' understanding of the mind. So this is important to do. And follow your passion, keep going. And there's a lot of rewards. As I said in my talk 2 years ago, I said you get awards, you get citation. I'm just finished a book on theory of mind that I hope will be published this year at Cambridge. It gives you a chance to reflect on the field and tell the readership how the field should move forward. So there's a lot of that, and your student are your best reward. And I remember at the talk, I had copied some nice acknowledgement of thesis, and I showed the audience, see, this is what you get sometime, and it's the best reward. It's actually a reward that is even more precious than any prestigious publication. So this is what it is. It's like being happy with your work, and then exactly, progress and persist.
Yeah. And what do you like to do when you are not doing science? I know maybe this is a difficult question because as a scientist, you're always doing science or thinking on science or the experiments, but is there any hobby that you have?
It's important to have a balanced life. I mean, that's for sure. I work very hard all my life, and sometimes you have to stop. My husband is not doing research, so is good at telling me that I should stop. I would work 7 days a week sometimes. But no, I think I love photography. I have actually I had some recognition of my work from National Geographic once in my life. They accepted
Wow,
my
that's
photo.
amazing.
It didn't get into the magazine, but I got the
Yeah.
award of the week, let's say, the best shot of the week. So I have this in my office. So when I travel, I just went to Italy. I love photography. So I want to spend more time, learn more techniques. And I don't take photo with my phone. I have a good camera, a reflex camera. So that tells you something. And I like music. I was in a choir when I was a child. So I want to take piano lesson, which I never did. So this is one of my dreams. And traveling, but traveling in an ecological way, hopefully. I mean, we have to also be mindful of our carbon footprint. But I try to do that when I go to conference. So I'm going to another conference next week in Lisbon. So I will spend time before and after to explore a little bit of the country. So I love doing that. So this is one of my my hobbies.
And is there anything else that you would like to say to the ICIS community?
Well, as I said, I think we have a wonderful field. We have to keep up with the technology and the new way of doing work and not stick with our old habits. People like me who are more senior have to learn a lot. So get the best training. We should continue to have our meetings, and what you're doing with these interviews is extremely helpful. And we should participate actively to everything that is happening within the society, and continue to support our journal and choose it as our preferred outlet for our work, and be present as much as possible to the meetings.
Well, thank you so much for taking the time to this short interview. It's been a pleasure to have you here and sharing your knowledge. Well, thank you very much.
My pleasure. Hope to see you soon in person.
Yeah, I hope that too.
Bye-bye. Thank you.